And welcome back to Lantern Corps. I'm in my girlfriend's house at the moment, so I've got different locations. So if you see the light saturation changes because I'm in her sunroom. It's not that well. Lit. Actually, let me rephrase it. It's well lit, but it's too well lit. It's all window, so there's a lot of different saturation of light going into the camera right now. So at some points it's like glaring bright like that, but if I kind of move back a little bit, it adjusts it a bit. So I'm gonna try to stay back here so it stays mildly adjusted. But Noble Chief has asked for my opinion on what Lantern Corps do I think Sanosuke, I believe it's a Sanosuke Sagara. I believe it's Sanosuke. Oh, no, Sanosuke I know for a fact is the first name. The last name, Sanosuke. Sanosuke Sagara from Rurouni Kenshin. I loved Rurouni Kenshin. That was back in the 90s when I definitely jammed on Toonami. That's something me and my girlfriend should actually watch. She hasn't seen it. I actually think she'll like it a lot. But yeah, and he was the fighter for hire as he was introduced as. But he had like a backstory and stuff. He was a great friend and ally to Kenshin. And I'm gonna there we go. Ooh, nice. And so the question is, what Lantern Corps do I think he belongs in? So I think we can get let's just get half of these out of the way right now. He's not a Lantern of Life. Yeah, he protects people, but he's also very much someone who probably would take a life if he had to, if he hasn't already. He's also, I just don't think life works for him. He's also never died, and he's not really like Kenshin or, I can't remember his rival back in the war. But yeah, they haven't taken so many lives that the blood literally could be smelled on their blade. He's not a Gold Lantern either, has not been happy his entire life. He's not a Lantern of greed. He's not really that greedy. He's just a guy trying to make his way in the world. Not really a Lantern of hope, at least not in the general sense. And I would also say he's not a Lantern of compassion. He neither lacks nor has an overabundance of that. So let's talk a couple that he could qualify for right now. Boring as it always is, green has got to be on the list of Lantern Corps he can qualify for. You need to be able to overcome great fear, which he definitely had to in his younger days, and have a great amount of willpower, which he certainly has up the wazoo. So green works perfectly. Moving on to a Lantern Corps I don't think he can qualify for. Nothing that he is doing is being done out of love. There's no real motivation for that. So I can't really say a Star Sapphire Lantern really works in his favor. I would say the weakest one of the four, and I do have four this time around, that he could qualify for is the Lantern Corps of Fear. It's not to say that he doesn't strike fear in individuals. That's actually not the case at all. He definitely scares people, but once he goes up against actually powerful individuals, he's not something. They respect his ability, but they don't fear him. So fear is possible, but it's not a Lantern Corps that really, I think, works in his overall favor. Then we have actually the one that might even be the less likely, at least as the series progresses. When we first meet him, Red actually might be the most likely. He does. Now, at first you don't get that vibe from him. He seems very carefree and capable of fighting, but capable fighter. But he's just he's just the kind of cool fighter guy. But once he figures out who Kenshin is and everything that happened with his battalion back in the war, you can tell there's a lot of underlying anger and rage that is still in Sanosuke's heart. And I think if we're talking about when we meet him first in the series, through the early parts of the series, rage could be on that list. In fact, rage might even be the number one on that list. But if we're talking about the overall progression of the character, how he is depicted in the series, then no, rage wouldn't work because he overcomes most of that anger he had. So yeah, I can't say rage is the most likely. So that leaves us with yellow, and green is most likely, except, and I would put green over yellow. So you'd think, well, he's a Green Lantern, except that while he did forgive, let a lot of his anger go, that doesn't mean all the negative emotions were gone, because there is one Lantern Corps I think he might actually overqualify even over green. It's a tie either between this and green, and I'll give you my final thought as I explain it, and that's the ultraviolet lanterns. Now, they don't get brought up a lot because I think they've kind of just been thrown to the wayside at this point. But the ultraviolet lanterns are essentially they don't even have their own ring. What it is that it's I'm just going to get the ultraviolet lanterns up here right now to get an accurate description of them. The ultraviolet lanterns are weird. They are a parasitic ring, very similar to ultraviolet lanterns. Lantern, yeah, the ultraviolet lantern. There we go. They're a parasitic ring similar to the ring of compassion, where it robs you of your individuality. However, the ultraviolet lantern corpse is the lantern corpse of the unseen light, part of the invisible emotional spectrum. The heart of the corpse is the living phantom galaxy powered by a sentient sun called Umbrax. So first off, you have a living galaxy that's powered by a sentient sun. Okay. Umbrax moves unseen through space, drawn towards planets where self-destructive forces are strongest. It surrounds these places, animating them with energy. The difference here among the ultraviolets, as far as I know, is that ultraviolet ring, unlike most laser rings, which use physical rings, that's basically that's what I was trying to remember. Unlike other rings, the lantern ring of the ultraviolet lanterns is not an actual physical ring. It's basically like a tattoo brand that basically tattoos on other lanterns or other members of the Corps. As I said, it's a parasitic ring though, because they are unlike even more so than the ultraviolet lanterns. This is the indigo. Thank you. The indigo lanterns. They're even more parasitic because all the lanterns are controlled by this sentient sun. So basically, they are all being just puppeted by this mastermind. The only real difference between the the ultraviolet lanterns versus other lanterns is that the only thing they are really capable of doing that others can't is being able to actually induce negative emotions and capable of even affecting others with like hatefulness, self-destructiveness, primeval elements held deep within their hearts. So while the ultraviolet lanterns go out predominantly after negative emotions, it's believed that they predominantly focus on shame. Because this is why I think Sinestro got taken over, because fear technically is a negative emotion, but then you'd make an argument that how the hell is was it not Nihilus? What's his name? Oh God, why am I forgetting the Red Lantern Corps leader's name? Atrocitus. You'd make an argument then, or even freaking. Oh wow, I am just blanking on names today. The Orange Lantern. Agent Orange. Why am I blanking on his name now? Larfleeze. Well, Larfleeze, Atrocitus, you'd have to make the argument why they weren't taken over by a ultraviolet lantern at any point. Maybe they just weren't in the vicinity of one. But yeah, that's why it's kind of more believed that they are. Hi, buddy. Sorry, kitty cat's here. Yes, you can see his little head. He's like staring out your window. He's a good boy. He's a good boy with a big old pooch. That's why Sinestro may have been the most susceptible to it, because despite using fear, the Yellow Lanterns are very different than most of the other Lantern Corps, because where all the other Lantern Corps do derive off that emotional spectrum for their strength, fear is actually about inducing that emotion on others. And so you're generally able to keep your sense of self and the other emotions you carry with you. And the fact is, Sinestro did ultimately feel a lot of shame later on in his career for some of the things he did, and that's why an ultraviolet lantern ring was able to take him. All this is to basically build up to the point that Sanosuke probably still carries a lot of shame with him about how things went down, about not being able to help his commander, about everything. And that could make him a prime candidate to be an ultraviolet. Now, luckily, he doesn't spend all of his day moping around or anything like that. But when it comes up, he definitely still cares. It's clear he still harbors that guilt and shame about that. So I will say that between an ultraviolet and a Green Lantern, it's most likely going to be a Green Lantern when you think about him on a day-to-day basis. And the fact that he still has to keep fighting opponents and overcoming great fear and use willpower, all that. But I don't think you can sleep on the ultraviolet as the second option. The problem with yellow and red ultimately is that red really only applies to his early days in the series. And then yellow could work, but it doesn't work against the stronger opponents of the series. He doesn't strike fear in the hearts of the stronger opponents. So I would probably go green with ultraviolet being the second and then round out with the yellow. Red only works in the early stages of the series. But this is just my opinion. What do you think? Do you agree with this or do you disagree with that? What Lantern Corps would you do for Sanosuke if it wasn't one of the ones I just suggested? Can you make an argument for any of these Lantern rings? Let me know in the comments below. But thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe. And I've got to pre-record my what if for tomorrow. So thanks for watching. See you later.